things. Guessing the good morning, Britt. How are you? It's pretty good. You jumped in here before the Stream Element spot announced that I was streaming. Not as tired as I thought I would be, if I'm being honest. I haven't been sleeping well lately, and I thought for sure that I was going to be exhausted, but I think after you and I got off the call, uh, and then I jumped into your live stream, and then subsequently popped out because I was going to bed. I think I only stayed awake for a little while, and I, successfully passed out for the first time in quite some time. Usually I'm up and down all night. Oh crap. You know what I forgot to do? Hold on. Give me a second. I done fucked up. Let me see if I can get this up. Uh, I may be wide awake, but it doesn't mean that my brain is functioning correctly. I'll be right with you. There was something I forgot to do. I'm just loading up another screen. Get rid of this one. Get rid of this one. Obviously, this one's going to give me trouble, which always happens. Close it out, reload it. I swear this always happens. Forgot to change the information on screen because it still says um, tourist trap cities. I forgot to change that. Oops. that load in the background. It's not a big deal. Um, the only thing with using OBS is that I can't tell who stays in the chat and who doesn't. So you'll have to. Oh, wait, I can check the participants. That's interesting. Okay, that's good to know. At least it lets me know who's in here and for how long. No, I actually just found some information leading back to one of the other episodes I did that will actually relate to this episode as well. At least, you know, briefly. Let me close these out because obviously something isn't loading. Usually not this. Bear with me. Running certain programs while OBS is open is a pain in the ass. Are you kidding me? Good Lord, I should have had all this taken care of earlier. So are you just waking up, Brett, or have you been up for a while? Hour and a half. I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember when I woke up. It's 10:40 now. I think I woke up at like a little before 8:30. There we go. That's the thing I need. Let's see if it'll load up. I don't know why it's considered a video. It's a OBS background. It's not even a video really. Come on. Do what you're supposed to do. Let's go. Did the kiddo stay asleep all night or get back up wanting pickles and lasagna? Come on, give me the ability to download it. There we go. Went upstairs at midnight to get ready for bed and found my 4-year-old in the recliner cuddling a salad and her tablet TV on a blanket half on her, and she was passed right out. She also something the dog. Oh, fed the dog the rest of the lasagna. Oh, good lord. Leave it to kids. Alright, that's done. Now let's close this. It's probably making my computer run very slow. Open this. Go into. Oh my god, I should not have been this unprepared. I got everything, all of my references up, but I didn't change the title in the background. This is probably not the one I want. See, this is why I need a better setup so that I don't have to run everything off of one central computer. My kid is weird. It's fine. uh, yeah, I think all kids are weird at some point or to some degree. Yeah, that's definitely not the background I wanted. I need the other one. Yes, that is the background I needed. Now let me go to this. Settings. Change. Upload. See, now that I'm on this screen, it's going, pretty quick. I'm sorry, Brett. It's just the one thing that needs to be done was not done, and it's just irritating. Submit. Save. Let's see, did it change over here? I believe. Is there? There's got to be a way. Wait, what is it doing? There we go. Holy crap, it actually worked. Um, Britt, just to confirm, let me know that you see that it says class reunions instead of tourist trap cities. That way I can be certain that it changed for everyone. Okay, awesome. Now that I got that mess behind me, let's make sure I can do this. This is not supposed to be that. Move this. If I can, I don't think I can. Probably gonna have to keep that the same size. So, if you remember, please don't do anything to crash. I would hate that. If you remember a couple, I don't even know how long ago it was. It was a couple episodes ago. I had talked about reading on Instagram that my former school district was bowing to the demands of the new governor of New York and changing their mascot from the Indian to a fucking fighting squirrel. Um, I still am pissed off about that. Like, absolutely just ridiculous. But I read earlier, I don't know what made me check either, but I read earlier, actually, you know what? Because of the fact that I was commenting on the Instagram post and I was arguing back and forth with somebody, I actually wanted to go back on Instagram and see if I was blocked from um, see if I was blocked from commenting or even blocked from seeing the page that I was commenting on. Thankfully, I'm not blocked. I can still comment. But they had a follow up uh, on the Instagram page, and it was an article talking about the um, the fact that I gotta cut my beard. The fact that now that everybody's finding out that there is a bunch of fighting squirrel bullshit coming out, everyone is bombarding the local uh, printer up in my hometown, and they're demanding that they want a bunch of the Indian gear, which is the logo that we've had for decades. And I had mentioned in that previous episode that it kind of bothered me that one of my own classmates was the one that designed the new fighting squirrel. Now, I'm not knocking him for designing it, because dude's good at what he did. Like, it looks great. But the fact that he was one of the jocks in the school and he really represented, you know, our entire school wearing the Indian while we were there, I think it just shocked me that he was so willing to do it. Um, so I went today and I looked, obviously, like I said, to see if I was blocked, and they had an update. They had an article that they had written, and the people are starting to, call them up and say, hey, we want the gear with the Indian on it before you guys stop selling it. So I think they realize the error of their ways, but at the same time, they realize that they kind of have to appease the cancel mob by creating the new logo and whatnot. I just I like the fact that it's kind of karma, that they're realizing, hey, we probably should have kind of put feelers out there as to what it should have been, because we can't really we can't really avoid changing the mascot, but we can at least get people's ideas for what they think it should be, being that a lot of people think it should be changed. Um, but what surprised me was because the kid who's in my class that designed the new logo, his dad actually owns the print shop that does all of the schools in the area, all of their logos, like prints all of their logos on merchandise and whatnot. So it surprised me that they interviewed my former classmate, but as I read the article, it seems as though when his dad decided to go and run for mayor, he actually took over the uh, the print shop, which I thought was cool. Um, and I'd love to see what he's doing with the print shop now. But I got to give him credit, even though I was a little disappointed that he designed the new logo and kind of catered to the cancel mob. The one thing that he said in the article is that he's still going to wear whatever the hell he wants, i.e., he's still going to wear the old logo with the Indians on it, um, which I think is great. And because that says, yeah, we'll appease you because, you guys are in the school now, but you're not going to take it away from those of us who've graduated under the Indian from wearing the logo and the mascot that we had when we were in school. So he's professionally, as professionally as possible, he's professionally giving the middle finger to Gen Z, which I think all of us should do because they deserve it. Uh, but I'm interested to go back up and visit just to kind of pick his brain because he and I were never necessarily friends in school. Like we were social, like we would talk to each other. We were aware of each other, but we were never in similar friend groups. But we were friendly, I suppose. Um, so I was kind of happy to see what I was happy to see that they interviewed him to get his views on what was happening. Um, I still think the school is going to catch holy hell for changing the logo to a damn fighting squirrel, but that's you know not in my control, I suppose. Uh, but to kind of transition into what I wanted to talk about today, the other day I don't know why, um, but out of the blue, a question popped into my head. I guess it was on the heels of thinking about the way that the younger generation is handling things. For some reason, the question popped into my head: does the younger generation look at class reunions the way that older generations did? Now, for me, I don't know. As a, I can't make a blanket statement that my class didn't really care about the class reunion concept, um, because obviously we had one, but the way that it was planned was that you know I guess the class president, who is always one of the rich bitch kids. I say that, and it's probably somebody I'm friendly with, so I got to be careful. Well, I'm probably friendly with them now, but it's always the elite kids that end up being the group that end up planning the class reunion. And the in crowd, I suppose, as they were known, um, were just these very hotsy totsy, mommy and daddy's money kind of thing. That was the type of people that I went to school with, and I'm pretty sure that those type of people still exist in schools today. But instead of reaching out to the class as a whole, because at the time social media was a thing, and they could have, instead of reaching out and saying, what's everybody's thoughts on what we can do for a class reunion, they planned a freaking golf tournament. And I guarantee all of the mommy and daddy's money crew were the only ones that were there. I think anybody adjacent to them that may have been friends with them, if they went, they were the ones that didn't play golf that day, but just stayed in the clubhouse and just got absolutely smashed. Um, because I opted not to go, obviously, because I don't know that they would actually let a wheelchair onto, the type of turf that they have for golf. Um, but I opted not to go. And that evening, I ended up going just kind of out for a beer with some friends. Um, Not friends that I had gone to school with, but friends in general. And lo and behold, out of nowhere, I see a bunch of my classmates who I haven't seen in 10 years. Um, they came into the local bar where I was. Now, mind you, this was back in 2013. Um, I've talked at length about the fact that I left New York in 2013. They had our class reunion, I think, in June or July, and I left in August. So I was still there long enough to, interact with people during the class reunion day, I suppose. Um, and so a bunch of them were already sloshed from being on the golf course all day. They came to the bar, and you know how alcohol makes it so you're very warm and fuzzy to everyone. Um, People that had never spoken to me once were coming up and giving me a hug, shaking my hand. Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. It's like you guys are so fucking phony. And thankfully, I stayed mostly sober that night, even though I felt like I probably should have been a lot more drunk. Um, but uh, yeah, so they got drunk, came to the bar, got even more drunk, and it was interesting to just sit back and watch. Now, as I'm approaching my 20-year reunion, I actually reached out to a friend last night who was actually more so part of the in crowd, uh, and he now lives in Nashville, Tennessee, and actually has lived in Nashville, Tennessee ever since he left school. I don't know if he came back up the uh, for the 10-year reunion, but he just told me the other day that he's been in Nashville for 20 years, or 20 years coming up, I suppose. And so I asked him, I'm like, do you know, has anybody contacted you to let you know if there's going to be a 20-year reunion. He goes, no, I haven't heard a damn thing. He goes, but to be fair, I didn't hear about the 20-year reunion. Well, no, he didn't go to the 10-year, or he didn't go to the 10-year. He goes, I didn't hear about the 10-year reunion until I saw pictures of it after the fact. So yeah, he didn't go to the 10-year. Um, and I don't even think I had anybody on my list at that time that would have posted pictures of the 10-year reunion. And I had significantly more classmates on my list back then. So I got to thinking, I know I'm rambling, but I got to thinking, even after that interaction, I'm like, okay, if our class wasn't, as gung ho about the class reunion and keeping in touch with everybody to let everybody know what's going on when they have it a lot easier as far as getting a hold of everybody, I had to wonder, are the younger generations not caring? Sorry, my people need to realize that they need to stop messaging me. Hold on. They weren't directly messaging me, it's a group chat. But it made me wonder if the younger generation even gives a shit about the class, or like the concept of a class reunion, because I think, as we've seen with the social climate that we are looking at today, I don't know that there are the types of bonds and connections with your fellow classmate or any peer at your age. Um, I don't think that those bonds are as strong. Um, so it'll be interesting to me to see, a, if any of my classmates talk about any plans, and b, anybody under the age, I would say under the age of 30, um, talk about anything to do with class reunions, because I don't know that I can say that my class was good at planning events, because we had a prom that was on a freaking mini cruise ship on Lake George, and it felt like we were just all a bunch of, sardines packed into a can. And so, going back to prom in 11th grade, I should have known that these people weren't capable of properly planning, an event that accommodated everybody. Not to single myself out in that, but having a wheelchair on a small cruise ship with, I think, I'm trying to remember how many kids we had in my class. I think there was something like 380. If anybody from my class watches this, they can correct me, but there was something like 380. And I honestly don't think that putting 380 people on a small cruise ship was the right thing to do. Um, so, being that I don't necessarily have any connections with the the elite from my graduating class, it'll be interesting to see if I have anything, or if I hear anything uh, about a 20-year reunion plan, because from what I was reading, generally they start planning a year ahead because they got to figure out the budget, what's possible, who's local, who's not, how much, they would have to put up for maybe hotels and whatnot. And I don't really see them accommodating to that degree. Uh, yeah, and as I'm reading the chat here, should have gone or picked a bar or restaurant, a hall, and hung out. The number of they call them Kiwanis. I don't know if they call them that down here. I think they're like the Lions Club or some like the Knights of Columbus. I don't know. I don't know what they call them down here, but we call them the Kiwanis up north. Kind of like the Rotary Club. There were a bunch of those halls up where I grew up. We could have easily had something. We had several places that we could have had the entire class meet up. Uh, and actually, just for shits and giggles, I'm surprised nobody, well, they were probably, thought it was below them, but just for shits and giggles, I'm disappointed that for the 10-year reunion, they didn't plan a get together at Skateland, which was this skating rink that everybody loved, but everybody also loved to shit on. Like it was a love hate relationship with Skateland because this particular business had been around since my mom was young, and it was the place that you went to see everybody on the weekends, but it was also simultaneously the same place that you saw or that actively mocked and shit on. They should have had it there. That would have been fun. Because I used to go to Skateland, and obviously not being on skates, I used to just push around the roller rink, which was fun. But yeah, they need. I don't know that the people organizing the events that deal with our class as a whole are necessarily creative enough to be doing that. So it'll be interesting. But I did find some information about reunions that I thought was interesting. I was actually trying to look for when the very first class reunion was held. And the first, and this kind of pissed me off, the first site that I came upon, I started reading, and the bullet points that they had seemed to be interesting to me. But as I read on, it's like it got to be more and more. I'll say it got to be less and less believable. And then I realized the website that I was reading was a satire comedy site. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I actually called my father, who was a substitute history teacher way, way back when. And I asked him, I'm like, I know this is not necessarily in your wheelhouse, but do you have any knowledge of when um, the very first class reunion was held? And I was telling him where I was looking and what information I found. And obviously, it wasn't in his wheelhouse, so he wasn't sure. But he did say, and this kind of shocked me because I didn't think that I wouldn't have thought that anything like this existed. Um, he said to talk to an educational historian, like somebody who specializes in uh, like educational type history, um, like the history of education. There we go. My brain's going everywhere. But I want to read some of the things that I found and see what your perspective is on uh, some of it. Because this first one is called The 16 Things You Can't Help But Learn at Your High School Reunion. And oddly enough, I'm talking about the elite. Um, this particular website is called elitedaily.com. It says the American high school experience is pretty uniform. You have your cliques, your test scores, your bad outfits, and your inevitable class reunions. Whether you grew up in farm country, Midwest, or the busy streets of Brooklyn, those adolescent years always come back to haunt you. That's the truth. Before email and social media, alumni committees collected addresses, sent out formal invitations, and planned class specific homecomings. These days, one person can create a Facebook event and be done with it. Social media allows us into the lives of people we never thought we'd see again, that is, until the reunion. Uh, the writer goes on to say that they're from Milwaukee. They went to a school of about 350, which was roughly about, I think, what I had. Uh, it was a well known fact the student body presidents planned their class reunions. That makes sense. Uh, and this person happened to be the student body president, so it was up to them, obviously, to make sure. Uh, we perp and see this. They go on to say we purposely skipped the 5 year reunion. Now, I had heard way back when that sometimes classes did plan 5 year reunion. It's like, why? But at the same time, I think the areas that do, I think when you do like 5 year reunions or increments of five, it's for those larger metropolitan areas. I would think. Um, our area was very small, so not a lot of people from my class had moved out of um, the area by our 10-year reunion, because figure I graduated at 18, and I think until I was 25, I pretty much saw three or four people from my class almost on a daily basis. Um, and once we got to be in our 20s and we were going out to the bars, it made me realize just how many a truck has to do that now. It made me realize just how many of my classmates who projected themselves on, I'm going to go out and start a riot. They projected themselves as individuals who were going to be oh so successful, like they were going to be prominent people, and it took them so long to move out of New York and actually do something with their lives. Now, granted, I can't shit on them for that because I didn't move out of New York until I was 28. Um, but it's that thing where you have these people saying that they have these big grandiose plans, and those grandiose plans, don't happen right away, and I think that they get discouraged and just don't do anything for X amount of time. And I'm pretty sure that there are still more people from my graduating class in New York than have moved out. That is one of the things that I talk to a lot of my friends about who are still in New York, is the fact that when I moved out, a bunch of people were, contacting me saying, I wish I could do this, that, and the other. I want to get out of here. 10 years into it, of me being out in New York, and none of them have made any effort to try and get out. They are, I think they're too comfortable up there. And whether or not they would admit that, I don't know. But I do think that they are too comfortable up there, and too many of them are scared to see what's outside the confines of their safe space. Um, because one of the things that I told people when I moved out was that um, I was no longer comfortable in my comfort zone. Like going back up there is my comfort zone because it's all familiar to me. But at the same time, I knew I wanted more, so I became uncomfortable in my comfort zone. And I don't think enough of them have gotten to that feeling. They don't know what it's like to be uncomfortable in their comfort zone and really push themselves to experience new things. Um, so, but the article goes on to say uh, we purposely skipped the 5 year reunion because it seemed unnecessary. For the most part, people went to college in the Midwest, came home for the holidays and summer breaks. Plus, social media kept us all in touch. So we waited 10 years to have the official first reunion. 10 years after high school allows for a lot of changes. People married, broken up, had babies, moved away, and some had passed away. Uh, there were a lot of things to catch up on in a 10-year reunion. Now, along the lines of people passing away, I remember a story that my mom told me that I don't know if I think she said that a few people by her 10-year reunion had passed away, um, which I think at the time she told me shocked me because I wasn't really it wasn't really something that I could fathom at the time when she told me. But knowing what I know now, and I think uh, no, this happened or that happened after I was already down here. Um, there's one kid in my class that I know of off the top of my head that passed away sometime after I moved down here to Virginia. His name was Nick, and he was diabetic, and everybody obviously knew. And I think my understanding from when he passed away was that it was something to do with the diabetes. And I think all of us were kind of in shock because Nick was always the one to be very, very health conscious. Like he was very aware of uh, his health situation. So I believe his mom passed away shortly. I think shortly after we graduated, if I'm not mistaken. So I believe his dad is still around. I could be wrong about that, but I know he has three sisters who are triplets. I never knew them because they were too young. They were born after we were already in either middle school or high school. They're well out of high school now, I believe. But I, it's I don't know. I'm gonna start rambling if I try and find other things to say. But yeah, I don't like I said I don't know that too many people from my own class passed away before the 10th. Um, and I don't know that any others other than Nick have passed away obviously before our 20th. Um, so the article goes on to say for our venue I chose a downtown bar for a simple night out uh, the day after Thanksgiving. So, people in this or the guy in this article is very in line with what you had said, Brett. Uh, little over 100 people showed up. They got drunk, and drunk is in italics, so it might mean they got sloshed. If there's one thing people need at a reunion, it's the social lubricant of alcohol. That's an interesting, awkward way to put it. I know exactly what they mean, but that just reading that is very awkward. It ended up being a good time since we got past the initial awkwardness. Whether we're talking about formal high school reunion, casual run in on the street, or a small gathering of old friends, there are some universal truths about all those people you grew up with and graduated with all those years ago. And then it goes into a list, and here, this is going to be fun. You pretty much already know everything about everyone from school or from social media. Yep, that was one of the things. Even though social media in and of itself was very new at that point, it was something that we all were aware of. Uh, says even if you don't want to know what these people are up to, somehow you do. Unless you're someone who has done a good social media cleanse of all non-friends, you still follow those people you knew back when, to a certain degree. It says the so and so has 3 kids, and that the that girl moved abroad to Spain for a year. Now, funny story. Not necessarily funny story, but funny connection to that line. My friend Erica, I don't know if it was right after graduation or it was probably shortly thereafter. She ended up moving to London for, I believe, a couple years. Um, and she was kind of one of those people that was in the in crowd. But I had known her since we were two. So even though I didn't necessarily run with her friends, she and I were always very close. And when we have the opportunity to catch up, when I go back up north, uh, we kind of reconnect as if no time has gone by, which I love. Um, you know that he Instagrams food porn all the time. I probably shouldn't have just said the P word, but whatever. Uh, and his former best friend is now dating his ex. Oh, the drama, it says. Uh, this is something, and we always see it in movies, is, and I guess obviously it's reminiscent of real life. Number two says the men age worse than the women. Um, yeah, I would say that's about right. There are very few of my male classmates that I would probably recognize on the street now from what we looked like back in high school. It says sad fact is true. Boys are balding and have dad bods. They still wear Levi's and button downs. They don't appear to be updating their look anytime soon. Ladies, however, finally learned how to pluck their eyebrows and put together a semi decent outfit. They have more confidence in their bodies than they did during those awkward body image issues of adolescence. I think those carry on into adulthood now, so that might not be as accurate as it was when this article was written. Everyone has gained weight, and you hate the one girl who hasn't. um, I don't know about the last part of it, but I know that the weight gain is real. Um, Someone's still doing drugs in the bathroom. I don't know. I don't know that we had any drug heads in my school, and if there were, I didn't know about them. I knew drug heads that were older and younger than me, but I don't know specifically from my class. Um, Everyone's drinks like this is someone's parents' basement. Um, I think we all did in our 20s. I don't know that we still do now. I know I don't. There's always that one kid you never notice in high school who is now super hot. Um, I guess the kids today would call that a glow up. I don't know that any people from my class had a glow up, uh, male or female. Those inside jokes and nicknames live on and are still hilarious. Um, Probably, like I said, with my class, I wasn't close enough to anybody to really have those inside jokes. I have those inside jokes now with friends, but not anybody from my class. It says you still remember some people's phone numbers. Probably less and less relevant because you put somebody's phone in your uh, cell phone and you forget about it. Um, it says it says you probably still remember some people's phone and their landlines. Uh, I remember actually my friend Erica. I remember her parents' landline. Uh, I called it so many times when I was a kid, um, and I could still recite it verbatim. I'm not going to because it's still their current number, but yeah, that is one specific number that I don't know that I will ever forget. The married ones with kids are the people you least expected to settle down. That's accurate. That is absolutely accurate. Um, that one girl is still trying to impress the boys. I don't know if we had any girls that were like that in my class. I mean, we probably did, but I didn't pay attention. Two people you never thought would date are going strong. Uh, Maybe, I don't know. The spouses who didn't go to high school with you. Wait. The spouses who didn't go to high school with you are awkward until they have something to drink. I'm confused about that one. It goes on to say it's tough to be the only outsider at a get together, but especially when that get together is a high school reunion. So what do? You drink. The spouses of the people that you went to school with. I get it. Damn, I need coffee, or something to wake my brain up. It says you remember the people you hooked up with. That never happened, and you can put me on a lie detector test if you want to, but yeah, that never happened. And some you wish you didn't. There are plenty I wish I had. I'm just gonna say that there are plenty I wish I had. Um, you realize how many people you really didn't know. Yeah, um, because those people that I never really ran in the same social circles with, I had a perception of them, uh, looking at them from an outside perspective. Um, but once we got to, even after graduation, I won't even say the 10-year reunion, they were completely different people than I had previously thought. You realize, I just read that one. Someone's finally out of the closet. I don't know. Like I know one specific that comes to my mind. That comes to mind. Um, but she was never. I don't know a lot of people in my school that were gay or came out as gay. Like I said, the one that I can think of was never in the closet. I don't think. If you've lost touch, you remember why. Abso-fucking-lutely. There are so many people that I lost touch with that I have no regrets about because every time I see them or every time I see a post from them, I know why we lost touch. Uh, oh, but going back to the chat now, what really depends? I wasn't watching the chat while I was reading. You'll have to refresh my memory as to what that's in reference to. Let's see. I gotta get rid of all these alerts because they're slowing my system down. Um, what happened to what, Brett? I don't know. Like I said, running everything off of uh, the one computer, it makes everything go really, really squirrely. You froze for a minute. Yeah, earlier when I was reading off of the website, I realized my camera was going slower too. Um, I had what had happened is I brought up a window from my computer to get rid of some of the alerts uh, because my computer is tied in with my phone. So if my phone is not in my hand, um, I'll still get the alerts from my phone on my computer screen. As much as I say I hate technology, I use it very, very frequently. Um, but there's a website called Group Travel that has a an article called Class Reunion Statistics, and it says it starts out. It says, "Would you throw a curveball to a hitter famous for hitting fastballs? You would. wouldn't you? Or what does that mean? Um, it says you would throw a curveball to, or would you throw a curveball to a hitter famous for hitting fastballs? You would, wouldn't you? You'd have you would have studied his stats and figured out that this guy hits far more fastballs into the center field bleachers than he does curveballs. So your game plan would simply be to feed him a steady diet of curves. Oh, okay, I get where the wow. And why not? The probabilities are in your favor. So what does this have to do with planning your class reunion? It says you see if you study class reunion statistics, which I looked, I can't find any. Of course, this article might give me some. Uh, if you study class reunion statistics, then you'd be able to plan a better class reunion. You'll learn what months are best to plan, the percentage of your classmates that will attend, and how to budget your expenses and income better. Um, Now, I'm not going to ask you to name multiple, but I'm curious, Brett, if you have any idea what the month is that most uh, class reunions are planned for. Like, what month are they usually held in? Those are seasons, you knucklehead. I said what month? Because there are statistics I'm looking at that show me what month everyone generally plans their uh, class reunion in. I want to see if you pick the right month. Ask you for a month and you give me seasons. What the hell's wrong with you? Oy vey. April is not one of them. October is one of them, but you're nowhere close. July has the highest percentage of class reunions planned within that month at 23%. August is 21. June is 12. October is 12. Uh, November is 5%. And May is 4%. I don't. Who the hell plans their that like July, August, and June? Obviously, I understand because it's easier to plan a class reunion. Well, I mean, I suppose depending on what you plan for a class reunion, if you have kids, you can get a sitter for the kids and go to the class reunion. But I don't understand why you would plan a class reunion, especially if your classmates have kids while the kids are in school. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't care if April to October includes July. I asked you for a month. You skirted around it by giving me seasons and then a span of months. Listen, how did you pass high school? Like, did you get good grades in high school? because I don't think that you listened very well. I'm just going to put that out there. Uh, Summer, as expected, had the highest number of class reunions. Weather is nicer, it's easier to travel, and outdoor activities can be planned. Uh, yeah, you were. I'm just gonna say you were a bad student because if you don't take direction from me, I'm gonna say you didn't take direction from your uh, instructors, your teachers. Uh, Says send out invites a year ahead of time so attendees can plan their next summer accordingly. Um, Obviously, going back to when I started this discussion, uh, obviously nobody's letting us know what the hell's going on, so it'll be interesting to see what all transpires. November surprisingly had the fewest class reunions. Many planners host a reunion around Thanksgiving, knowing that many people will come home for the holidays. Uh, May is a month that often is overlooked as a good month for class reunions. See, I disagree. Although maybe they know something that I don't. Estimating guests. Now, this was something when I was reading through last night was interesting to me. Another statistic keep in mind is that on average 80 to 90% of your former classmates will bring a guest. Their guest could include friends and family members. If you're expecting 100 classmates to attend, then it would be fair to assume that 180 people will be coming uh, to the reunion. It says keep this statistic in mind when planning the menu and create the class reunion budget. Um, Budget assistance when planning for food, entertainment venue, party favors. Who the hell does party favors at a class reunion? Plan accordingly how many you expect to attend. 20 to 30% of your graduating class. I don't necessarily know. Yeah, that definitely didn't happen for our 10 year. Uh, then double that number since they will bring a friend or spouse. I don't think that happened either, especially at that point. Keep in mind that you'll have extra costs for vendor meals, teachers, honorary guests. I don't know if teachers went to our 10 year. Finding classmates. Here we go again. Trying to find classmates is important to keep statistic, or it's important statistic to keep in mind that on average more than 60% will reside in their home state. Yup. I would say that's about right. This is helpful information when trying to contact people. When to begin, or that says begin 1 year in advance. Pretty typical. Um, Actually, here using the graduating class of 55 as an example, the 50th class reunion saw an attendance percentage in the mid 20s versus the 30th, which, oh, wow, okay. So a lot of people, it seems as though, wait a second, I'm going back to chat. Teachers weren't invited to yours? Wow. Like, were asked not to come, or they just weren't invited? That seems weird. Um, One of the other statistic talks about the fact that as people get older, they are more inclined to go to a class reunion because it's been so much time. They probably want to see who's still kicking, um, which is valid. Um, but to look at this and understand it all, I'm just gonna say I don't think. that the younger generation that we have now, I don't think that they have the mental capacity to even consider half of what goes into planning a class reunion. Um, and I mean, maybe there are those, normal students that because I think when we think of the Gen Z students that are out there right now, we look at the ones that are, raising hell on social media for this cause or that cause that they have no idea about. But we forget about the normal students that are just trying to get it, get their classes done, get out of school, and actually make something of their lives instead of being those, chuckle fucks that stick around their hometown because they have no actual prospects of being able to excel. That's what I think a lot of these people are that we define Gen Z by today. So overall I think it is probably bad to, you know, classify Gen Z as a whole um, as kind of incapable of dealing with shit because it's the ones that just kind of keep to themselves and just get shit done so they can go on and be successful. I'm hoping at the right time that we see more of that side of Gen Z rather than the idiots that we're seeing today. Um, but yeah, I can't say that if I hear of any plan for a 20-year reunion, I can't say that I will immediately plan to go back up to New York for that purpose, unless there's a real strong incentive for me to do so. But I don't know. It's just at, one of the things that I realized when I moved down here is the number of people that interacted with me while I still lived in New York significantly dropped as soon as I moved down here. Like there were people that were saying, "Oh yeah, we'll keep in touch and see how you're doing and this that and the other." And I have to seek them out. So I don't know that it would be worth my time to go to the 20th because I'm gonna see a bunch of people who I've been disconnected from for over 2 decades, and so I don't know if it's really worth my time. So I don't know that I would blame Gen Z if eventually the tradition of a class reunion fizzles out eventually, and hopefully maybe is replaced with something that's more relevant to younger generations and more modern. Who knows? Uh, because maybe the idea of class reunions just is an outdated, you know, tradition. I don't know, but yeah, it'll be the next couple months will be interesting to see if I hear anything and who comes out of the woodwork that has really been off the grid for a while. I don't know, just something that I guess I think about as I get older because 38 has me asking a lot more questions than even I thought I would be asking. So who knows? But this ran really long, and I didn't anticipate for it to run this long. But Britt, thank you for sticking around. Um, and now I'm going to go kind of poke my brain and see what I can come up with for tomorrow. Um, yeah, I will talk to everyone in the morning. Have a good day, guys.